Last week, we talked about some of the most expensive theme park rides in the world. And if you were impressed by those price tags, wait till you watch today's video. So here are more of the most expensive theme park rides ever. If you haven't, take some time to watch part 1. Fastpass facts. Number 5. As many of us know, the opening of Disneyland's second gate was a total disaster. The park didn't have great reviews because, honestly, it did not have the best design. It had questionable ride options, and there was not much to do. It just didn't have that Disney feel that we all expect when we're visiting a Disney park. Now, as we said before, in efforts to make the park better, Tower of Terror was built in 2004, which helped but was not enough. So, a complete overhaul was required to bring it up to Disney standards. As a result, extensive expansion and remodeling work began in 2007. At the cost of $1.1 billion, about doubling the land's original price. Each land was changed or improved. New rides like Toy Story Mania were added, a whole new entrance to Buena Vista Street was built, and in 2012, the much-anticipated Cars Land eventually opened.
Psst, hey, Lightning, when are the folks coming?
Really soon. Why are you whispering?
'Cause this whole place is super duper top secret. Hey, what's that button do?
Mater!
Holy spark plugs! This place is cool!
A whole new land is opening June 15th at Disney California Adventure Park. Test drive Radiator Springs Racers, Luigi's Flying Tires, and more. Cars Land. Get ready to be floored.
Turn them off, Mater!
We're good, nobody saw that.
This land is fantastic. It perfectly depicts Radiator Springs. It has shopping and dining options and several attractions. But Cars Land's main attraction is Radiator Springs Racers. The attraction is a fantastic track car ride that begins as a dark ride and ends with an incredible race through Ornament Valley. It carries guests up to, around, and through that remarkable range. And it happens to be one of the most spectacular Disney rides out there. Radiator Springs Racers is an astounding dark ride populated by amazing audio animatronics. We board a convertible race car, and off we go. We take a short and beautiful ride through the cliffs of Ornament Valley. Then we enter the dark ride part, where we avoid a couple of crashes and find the sheriff and Mater. Of course, a visit to Radiator Springs is a must, so we pass through town and get greeted by its residents. After the dark ride part ends, the thrills begin. Just before starting the race, we enter Luigi's Casa de la Tires, or Ramon's House of Body Art. Then we meet Doc Hudson, and the race begins. The ride randomly selects a car to win, and that car reaches the finish line first. The ride ends with a short drive through Taillight Caverns, where we find McQueen and Mater again, congratulating both vehicles. We have to take a look at every part of the ride to understand how much Disney spent to build it. Just the animatronics alone cost a fortune. Apart from these fantastic animatronics, we have the ride system. The dark ride portion of the ride is pretty awesome, and the race is so fun. We can honestly understand its $200 million price tag. Number 4.
Welcome to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror, the awesome new ride at Disneyland Resort Palace. Discover what it feels like to drop 13 floors faster than gravity itself.
When the first park debuted in 1994, ideas for a second Studios theme park in Paris were already in the works. The plan was to install a modified version of the Tower of Terror as one of the park's inaugural attractions. But due to budget constraints, this never happened, and the park opened in 2002 with no significant headline ride. As previously stated, Florida's version of the Tower of Terror was mechanically sophisticated and had a problem, in that if one of the 2 drop shafts failed, 2 of the 4 elevators would have to be shut down because each pair of elevators shared a drop shaft. Instead of 4 beginning shafts, 4 horizontal segments, and 2 drop shafts, Disney modified the ride to have only 3 all-inclusive towers. There would be no slow 5th dimension process, and each tower would be self-contained. This resulted in a shorter ride cycle, a lower risk of malfunction, and consequently, a larger capacity, as well as a lower cost of construction. The modified version was initially placed in California in 2004, followed by Tokyo in 2006, and eventually in 2007, Paris received their long-awaited flagship ride. However, during the early stages of construction, it was discovered that French regulations prohibit the use of solid concrete in buildings over a particular height. Instead, a steel frame is required. This snag is the source of the high cost, as the ride had to be reconstructed from the ground up to accommodate it. The ride in total cost $240 million, which would be around $320 million today. Although it might not be as good as its Florida counterpart, which cost $100 million less, it is nevertheless excellent and has changed the park's fortune. The studios have long been seen as the poorest of the 11 Disney parks, but Tower of Terror makes it a better park. And with the upcoming expansion that will be adding Galaxy's Edge, Avengers Campus, and a Frozen-themed land, Walt Disney Studios Park will probably be moving up on that list very soon. Number 3.
Compared to other activities, riding Test Track leads to a decidedly prominent increase in endorphin manufacture in the basal ganglia. In other words, Test Track rocks!
Brace yourself.
The ultimate automotive experience.
Test Track opened on March 17, 1999, in Epcot. In this ride, guests rode in test vehicles in a General Motors facility as living crash test dummies. The idea of the ride was that people could learn how automobile prototype evaluations were made. This was done by going between cones, testing anti-lock brakes, passing over rough terrain, and accelerating along with hairpin turns. Then the final test saw the car accelerate towards an impact barrier, only to have the barrier separate like an elevator door at the last second, as the car launched into an outdoor speed testing portion. The ride was built for about $300 million, which is about $502 million today. The cost for the ride continued to rise as the complicated system caused designers to redesign multiple times. Imagineers recognized the attraction would need a huge capacity due to the lack of rides at Epcot, but the computers they had could only manage 6 cars on the track at a time. They determined that to run at full capacity on that length of track, they need about 29 cars, so they spent an extra year installing and configuring various computers to handle all 29. Each of these cars holds 6 people, and as we said before, it sent them through the gamut of tests seen at a vehicle testing facility. Hot and cold rooms, brakes, and of course, speed. Visitors zoom out of the building at 65 miles per hour, making it the fastest ride Disney had created to date. After a while, Disney knew they had to upgrade the ride, so Test Track was closed down on April 15, 2012 for refurbishment. It reopened in December as a completely unrecognizable ride. The sponsor changed to Chevrolet, and it became an interactive ride. Guests get to use computer kiosks in a line to design their own vehicle, starting with a silhouette line. As they do, they're encouraged to consider balancing, capability, efficiency, responsiveness, and power by choosing features that can create any kind of vehicle they can imagine. Then, riders use their park ticket, or Magic Band, to bring their concept vehicle along with them, scanning it just as they enter the ride vehicle. Here, the car passes through a digital landscape, where it must endure many tests. Kind of like the original ride, but this time the tests are simulations. After the ride, they can see how their car did overall, film a commercial, race their designs, and have a picture taken with their own virtually designed vehicle, with a chosen backdrop in the background. Number 2. As we said before, Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey was the only attraction that was developed for the opening of the Wizarding World in 2010. But there were another 2 rides in the area. We'll be focusing on the Dragon Challenge today. This roller coaster was not considered a new attraction because it wasn't.
This is the castle of Merlinwood Forest, the site of a powerful battle between 2 fearsome dueling dragons.
Little bit of backstory. Dueling Dragons was one of Islands of Adventure's original attractions in the Lost Continent area of the park. When Universal announced plans to construct the Wizarding World, Dueling Dragons was shown to be included in the new section. The coaster was rethemed and became Dragon Challenge, a ride based on the Dragon Challenge contestants had to face for the Tri-Wizard Tournament. Its 2 coasters were also renamed Hungarian Horntail and Chinese Fireball. Fast forward to 2017. When the ride was completely torn down to make way for a new and mind-blowing ride coaster.
The world's most spellbinding journey is about to take its wildest turn yet. Prepare to face the Forbidden Forest and join Hagrid to encounter the rarest of magical creatures in the epic new addition to the Wizarding World.
Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure. This new coaster was constructed for a total of $300 million, making it the most expensive roller coaster ever created. Not only that, but it is the longest roller coaster in Florida, measuring nearly a mile in length. It has 7 launches, which are more launches than any other roller coaster in the world. And it is the second coaster in the United States to feature a vertical freefall drop at nearly 17 feet. This roller coaster has more than the thrill aspect. It also makes you come face to face with some fantastic animatronics in your journey into the Forbidden Forest. Some of the best animatronics that we can find are a life-sized Hagrid, a huge blast-ended Scrooge, and 2 unicorns. But the most significant, most impressive, and scary animatronic that this ride has is a huge animatronic of Hagrid's 3-headed dog Fluffy that can be seen growling and biting on a huge bone. This animatronic weighs 8,000 pounds and has very lifelike movements. Hagrid's Motorbike Adventure is a huge improvement from Dueling Dragons because it maintained the thrill of an incredible roller coaster, but the theming around the ride is fantastic. Number 1. When Star Wars Galaxy's Edge was announced at the D23 Expo in 2015, Star Wars fans had a lot to be excited about. In particular, we were filled with curiosity and anticipation regarding its headline attraction, Star Wars: Rise of the Resistance. Maybe one of the most exciting rumors was that the attraction would use multiple ride systems, including a trackless one. It was also speculated that since the show building would be 2 stories tall, that it would use a lift and maybe even a drop tower to move guests through the ride. This all came true, and this is probably the best ride that Disney has ever created, and one of the best theme park rides to date, period. Honestly, Rise of the Resistance is Disney's most significant technical masterpiece yet, and it's a must-do for any theme park fan, Star Wars fan or not. The ride features multiple ride systems, including motion simulators, trackless dark ride vehicles, and a version of the Tower of Terror's drop shaft. It has holograms, projection effects, 65 animatronics, and many more effects. The trackless system is used so well in this attraction, sending you spinning, shifting backward, and careening around corners in a way that keeps you guessing the entire time. The lift is a fun touch, and the drop effect used in the escape pod feels so believable. Imagineers have said in the past that the best kind of ride system is one that's fully integrated into the ride and isn't noticeable. And Rise of the Resistance is a great example of how it's done. Not only that, but the theming and the animatronics are fantastic. The ride is set up in a military outpost that the Resistance is set up. Guests become recruited by the Resistance and take part in a battle with the First Order. And even before entering the actual ride, you are entirely immersed in the storyline. It has been reported that the whole budget for Galaxy's Edge before Rise of the Resistance opened was about $1 billion. And apparently, Rise of the Resistance cost almost the same to create. And honestly, it is entirely understandable. It was definitely worth it with all the animatronics, different ride systems, and scenery and effects. How about part 3 of this series? There are still many rides and attractions we need to cover, so we'll be working on it ASAP. In the meantime, you can start planning your next magical vacation to experience many of these fantastic rides. Our friends at pixievacations.com will help you plan your perfect vacation to Disneyland, Disney World, or Universal Studios, specifically tailored to your vacation style and budget. And working with a Pixie is entirely free. So talk with them to make the best out of your Disney vacation.